guys, Joe here from XFoxGames, and check it out. We are doing kind of an overview of what we use and what we typically recommend when we want to lipo mod or just kind of mod some of our blasters in general. We've been getting a ton of questions on, hey Xbox, what do we use when it comes to batteries when we want to, mod our blasters from, the AA's to a lipo? What batteries do you recommend? What connectors? What switches? What do we do? And I figured this is probably the best way to kind of go over it and say, hey, here are some of the options that are out there. And then, you can kind of pick and choose based upon which blaster that you want to go. So we're going to cover things from batteries to the different connectors, to some of the switches we use, to, custom epoxy, and kind of, what you can do based upon your budget. Because I think it comes down to a lot with, how much money you want to spend when it comes to upgrading some of your blasters. So the first thing I want to do is say, you guys, come on. If you haven't already, yes, wherever it is, make sure you guys subscribe. Go over there, click that button, click the bell icon. Make sure you guys get in on those giveaways because we do a lot of giveaways all the time. I believe right now we are giving away the either the finisher or the chrono. So make sure you guys get in on that. Like, take 2 seconds, go over there, click it. Now you're good. Anyways, let's hop over this. I want to cover batteries first because I think that is one of the biggest kind of hurdles where people are like, what do I get? Do I get the Nerf rival battery? Do I get a small lipo, a 2-cell, a 3-cell? What do I get? And, for me, it was very difficult when I first started modding. Like, why wouldn't I just get the huge 5,000 milliamp battery? Or why wouldn't I just use their Nerf rival battery? Why do I got to use, one of these ones that cost 2 times as much as this? And we're going to cover that. And maybe this would be the best reason for you to, maybe this would be the best option for you, but we want to cover that. So when it comes to lipo modding a Nerf blaster in general, you got to figure out, okay, what's its base voltage? So for example, like my Strife here. So my Strife uses 4 AA's. So each AA uses 1.5 volts. So that would tell me that this thing would use or run at about 6 volts, right? So, some people are like, why wouldn't I just throw 11 volts in there? And I don't really like to double the voltage that the blaster typically runs on unless you want to rewire. I usually try to stay right around or a little bit above what the blaster typically runs on. So it's just an example. Again, this is 6 volts. Something like this, the Nerf, one of the Nerf rivals, they will typically run with, they have the battery pack in there, they have 6 1.5 CRD volts, which equal 9 volts total, or you can run them off the 7.2. You don't get the full punch, but these battery packs are meant for it. So you just have to, kind of your first step is figure out, okay, what is the base voltage that the blaster runs on? Then you could figure out, okay, do I just want to replace the battery or do I want to rewire it and give it a little more punch? A lot of times the stock motors can't handle if you're doubling the voltage, like if on the Strife, right? If you're going to double it to 12 volts, then, you might need to update a lot more than comparison to just going to like 7.2 volts. And we're going to cover that. So first, what are we going to go to? Next, it's going to be, again, do you want to double that voltage? Again, for our Strife, I always recommend, keep it the same volts or very close. So for example, again, this uses 6 volts. You can use a smaller battery like this right here. This is just a Turnigy 1.3 milliamps, 7.4 volts. So it's going to give you like a 25% increase in rev. And typically those are revving harder, down, it's going to shoot a little bit harder. And look this battery is not that big at all. And it's going to come down to also, how many shots do you want to get out of your battery? Now, keep this in mind. The 1300 milliamp 7.2 volt LiPo battery pack here, dude, this is going to give you a lot of shots. I mean, you're probably going to run out of darts before you even shoot this thing close to being dead. So if we look here, you can see some of these batteries are like this one, 1500 milliamps, 1300 milliamps. 550. Some of you guys are going, man, that's crazy. 550. Of course, 5,000. The Nerf rival one here is only 1,500. So the more milliamps, right, the more energy that is stored in the battery. But here's the thing. With Nerf, if you're not sitting there holding the battery and letting the motors just run continuously, you're going to be able to play a lot, almost all day with One battery. And these are cheap. I picked up 2 of these for, I think, $14 or $17. So you can get 2 of these, and I mean, you're ready to rock and roll. But the downside, right? Some of you guys are like, well, what's the downside? Why wouldn't everybody do it? Because you're going to need a charger, right? You need to take a little more care with these things. You're going to need to buy a LiPo charger. Now, they range all over the board from $15 to a couple $100. We got kind of the mid-bore charger for one of these. So you're going to need a charger unless you guys already have one. Now, when you're looking at some of these batteries, you're thinking, well, XFox, why would I ever go with the 550? You know, and why would I never go with the 1300? Now, here is the difference between these two, is this particular battery here is 7.4 volts. This one right here is 11.1 volts. But look, it is much smaller. I mean, very smaller comparison to this one. Now, this one does hold almost 3 times the capacity as this. But again, 550 milliamps of battery storage is not that bad. I mean, if you're going to play a quick round, you know, I could probably get, I don't know, 1,000 shots out of this thing. And that's a lot when you think about it. 1,000, maybe 1,100 shots. This one, you're going to get, I mean, I don't even know. I shot, well, I know at least 1,200 shots out of this, and it was still running strong. So the reason why we have some of these smaller batteries is for things like this. If you guys remember our Hurricane, it was, I mean, that is a very small area on the bottom. I mean, you cannot fit, well, I guess you can, but see how it was just too big. They do have an extender that I seen, but the extender didn't fit all the way around that. So we ended up opting for, yeah, the little small battery. So we're going to slide in there, and I got a little more punch, right? This is 11.1 volts comparison to the 7.4 volts here. So you get almost a 30% increase in voltage. Now, with the capacity all kind of figured out, let me throw this back on there. Now you can figure out, okay, what connectors do we want to use? And the connectors are those right on the end of the battery, right? We got like this. This is the classic XT60 connector. You got this right here. Take a look at that. This right here is, of course, the classic T adapter, or some people call this a Dean's adapter for all you RC guys. Here's a little small one. This is pretty nice. This is an XT30. Look at that. So you got to kind of pick and choose, because you don't want to have, you know, all your normal Nerf ones run on the Dean's connector and all of these runs run on XT30. I try to just pick up a bunch of kind of extra tips so I can swap them with my Nerf blasters in general. So like something like this, you can buy both male and female end plugs right here already pre-tinned. You can get like 4 each of these for like $9. So you could basically mod 4 blasters with this little pack and a battery, which is kind of nice. Or, yeah, you could buy a little bit longer. So you can see these ones have a little bit longer. I think that's a little, almost too long sometimes, but this is the XT30, so it's a little smaller connector. Again, it's completely up to you. Or, if you're like me, you can use something like this. So this Venom battery pack here is a 5,000 milliamp, right? 7.2 volt, has the XT30 connector on there. It comes with, if you could see here, it comes with the Traxxas connector. It comes with the T adapter, and it just slides on the end. So you can actually just, you know, if you have different blasters using this and you could fit this, just slide it in there, pop on the right connector, and you're good to go. I kind of like this because it makes it universal, so I don't have to, you know, I don't have to kind of swap if I have different blasters that I modified at different times. So one more thing, guys, with the batteries and the connectors is sometimes if you are jumping from, say, a standard like 6 volt to 11.1 volt, is you're going to need some type of way to rewire it, because the small wires really can't handle that type of voltage if you jump. So you can get some of this off Amazon, you know, 14 gauge. You can go down to 10 gauge or 12 gauge if you want to, and you can buy like 2 feet of the black and the red for about $6, and that is well over enough to do a blaster or 2. So again, if you're going to upgrade to double the voltage or more, make sure you're going to rewire your particular blaster or even upgrade your motors. Again, I highly recommend just to keep it around the stock voltage. Sometimes you are going to need a new switch. Now, I wasn't going to cover this, but I wanted to show it, but you can buy switches. I'm going to take one of these out of here. These switches are usually around $2 to $3, sometimes a little more depending on, you know, if you want to get non-generic ones or not. But these switches are great because these can kind of take place and hold the amperage of the battery of some of the switches inside your blasters already. Now, what's difficult about these is a lot of times there's no mounting holes for these, right? So you're gonna need a way to hold it in place. Now, my favorite right here is the EP20. Again, you can go to like a Home Depot, a Lowe's, and pick some of this up, and then you could put that inside your blaster where you want your switch to go, and it hardens up and kind of just locks it into place, unless you guys can kind of drill this into place already in your blaster. I have found that it is almost impossible to get one of these right in the place that you have and have it already kind of mounted into place, right? So I always recommend EP200 if you haven't already. And this is like $6, and there's a lot of epoxy in there, enough to at least do a blast or 2 or maybe 3, depending on what you want to do. Some people will actually use this also to kind of mold and change the look of their blaster. I always use it just for internal. So again, up to you. So with all that said, at least it gives you guys a good idea of a lot of the different batteries that you can use. And it comes down to, yeah, which blaster you're modifying, how much capacity do you want, how much voltage do you want, and of course your budget. So let's just put all this into practice and kind of say, okay, we want to upgrade the Nerf rival Herrera here, or whatever, Herrera. So stock, it is 9 volts if you use the C batteries. So I'm like thinking, okay, it's 9 volts. But you can buy the 7.2 volt nickel metal hydride rechargeable battery pack from Rival here. Now this is about $20 and it comes with the charger. Slips right in. Oops, like this. And boom, you got 7.2 volts, you lock it up, you're good to go, right? You can recharge it, you don't got to spend a ton of money on rechargeables. But it's not the 9 volts that came in here, so you're going to get a little bit less of performance, but you get the ease of use with the battery pack. So when I think of this, I think, okay, if I want to replace this battery pack, 7.2 volts, well, I could just do something like this. I got a 1500 milliamp, I got a 1500 milliamp 7.2 volt battery pack here. And the weight, I mean, is different. I mean, and look how much difference in in just volume, right? So if I were to mod this, I would make sure that I get some type of, right here, you can see it uses the T connector to be modded back here. But then you're gonna probably need somewhere to put this in there, because I mean, look at it, it's just gonna flop all around in there. So I would highly recommend to go that route, or maybe you guys want to upgrade to the 11.1 volt. Now here's the thing, the 11.1 volt there, you could use a little small one like this. Maybe for the Nerf rival, I mean, it's probably gonna chew this one up a little bit more, but I mean, look at that, it is like tiny in there. Or you could step your game up and get a little more voltage or a little more milliamps out of here. So check this one out. This is, of course, a 3-cell, but it is 11.1 or 11.4 volts, so it's a little high. It's the high voltage, but it is 4,500 milliamps. So it's technically like what? 9 of these things? So it's 9 of these in just the one, so you don't have to change your battery as often. It is weighing a little more, but it still would fit in there on a connector. Absolutely no problem. So you see it, guys, how it comes down to, you know, how often you want to change your batteries, what you guys are putting it into. If it were me, I would probably go this here. And then, of course, I believe on the Hera, the stock wiring can handle 11.1 volts because it already runs on 9 volts stock. So going up a little bit, I never had a problem with my other ones, but if you wanted to rewire it, perfect. Just rewire it with some of these just to be on the safe side, but I had no problems with mine. So there you go, guys. I know that's a quick and brief overview on kind of LiPo batteries, how to upgrade things, and just I kind of wanted to show you what we have kind of in our, you know, little environment here and what we use when we want to upgrade some of these things. So hopefully it gives some of you guys out there a good idea on, yeah, you know, what do we upgrade? What do we use? What do you use, XFox? Anyways, definitely subscribe, guys, if you haven't already. Come on, get in on those giveaways. I can't stress that enough. Thanks again, Fox fans.